In Ecclesiastes 1-2, the theme of vanity permeates the text as the preacher explores the futility of human endeavors. Join us as we dive into these chapters, contemplating the transient nature of life's pursuits and the ultimate quest for meaning. Discover the timeless wisdom encapsulated in Ecclesiastes and its relevance to our modern-day struggles with purpose and fulfillment. Explore the timeless wisdom of the Proverbs of Solomon in our latest video. Join us as we delve into these insightful teachings, offering valuable lessons on life, morality, and human wisdom. Subscribe to our channel for more profound insights and inspiration from the Proverbs of Solomon. Who was the Ecclesiastes, and what does Ecclesiastes mean? In this video, we delve into the identity of the author behind the book of Ecclesiastes and explore the meaning of the term Ecclesiastes. Was it Solomon or someone else? Join the discussion in the comments below. The term Ecclesiastes translates to preacher, or one who addresses an assembly, shedding light on the role of the author as a speaker or teacher. As we journey through the book of Ecclesiastes, we encounter the recurring theme of vanity and the author's reflections on the fleeting nature of life's pursuits. Share your thoughts on the significance of vanity in the comments section. Stay tuned as we unravel the profound insights of Ecclesiastes and contemplate its relevance in our lives today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your insights in the comments below. What exactly is vanity and what value does it hold? According to Solomon's reflections in the book of Ecclesiastes, everything seems to be vanity: our actions, our pursuits, even our children, all is vanity. However, it's essential to grasp the context and nuances of Solomon's message. While reading Ecclesiastes, one might feel a sense of apathy towards life, where nothing seems worthwhile, but Solomon's perspective needs to be understood in a specific context. When Solomon speaks of vanity, he's comparing various aspects of life. He's highlighting the fleeting nature and ultimate emptiness of worldly pursuits when compared to higher ideals or eternal truths. So, when Ecclesiastes talks about vanity, it's presenting a comparison, a contrast between the temporary nature of worldly endeavors and the enduring value of deeper spiritual truths. As Solomon delves deeper into his reflections in Ecclesiastes, he questions the value of human labor. Generations come and go. The earth remains forever. But what benefit do we derive from our efforts under the sun? Solomon's inquiry prompts us to ponder the purpose of our work. Is it merely to build houses or earn a living? No. Solomon isn't suggesting that we shouldn't work or provide for our families. Rather, he's highlighting the transient nature of earthly pursuits when viewed in the context of eternity. In essence, he's reminding us that material wealth and accomplishments hold no significance in the grand scheme of things. When we pass away, we can't take any of it with us. Solomon's reflections urge us to seek meaning beyond the temporary and fleeting pleasures of this world, pointing us towards a deeper understanding of life's purpose and the pursuit of eternal values. As Solomon delves deeper into his reflections in Ecclesiastes, he questions the value of human labor. Generations come and go, the earth remains forever. But what benefit do we derive from our efforts under the sun? Solomon's inquiry prompts us to ponder the purpose of our work. Is it merely to build houses or earn a living? No, Solomon isn't suggesting that we shouldn't work or provide for our families. Rather, he's highlighting the transient nature of earthly pursuits when viewed in the context of eternity. In essence, he's reminding us that material wealth and accomplishments hold no significance in the grand scheme of things. When we pass away, we can't take any of it with us. Solomon's reflections urge us to seek meaning beyond the temporary and fleeting pleasures of this world, pointing us towards a deeper understanding of life's purpose and the pursuit of eternal values. Solomon, in his Proverbs and verses, shares his wise insights into life and nature, gained through years of observation and contemplation. He draws parallels between various aspects of life and the steadfastness of natural phenomena, which he perceives as endless and cyclical. Using these parables, Solomon conveys the wisdom that all of human toil and effort, hopes and desires, can occur relatively quickly and leave little trace, much like the rising and setting of the sun or the movement of the wind. He also points out that even in mighty rivers, there is a certain regularity; they do not overflow the sea due to their cyclic flow. Thus, through these parables, Solomon encourages us to understand natural laws and seek depth and wisdom in life's phenomena. Who in school didn't smoke their textbooks? Let me tell you in the comments how it happens. How does water that enters the sea return? By what path does the water cycle through the clouds? It evaporates into clouds, where God carries it to the sources. There, it falls as rain, and the process repeats in a cycle. So wise Solomon knew this thousands of years ago, long before our scientists understood it. Without our modern scholars, he described how the water returns and flows back into the sea. There's some scientist, I can't remember who came up with the idea that the earth hangs in the air. Who said that? Copernicus? Because others said the earth stands on 3 elephants, and there were other versions. Copernicus said the earth is a planet in the air. But long before Copernicus, Job said that you laid the earth on nothing. If people read a bit more of the Bible, they might have guessed before Copernicus that the earth lies on nothing, because God, through Job, explained it with the Holy Spirit. Because it said that the men of God, without the help of scientists, knew about all things. A person can't relay everything, an eye can't be satisfied with seeing, nor an ear with hearing. What has been is what will be. And what has been done will be done again. There is nothing new under the sun. Have you ever noticed? Here's something new, but it was already in ages past before us. There is no memory of past events, and neither will there be any memory of what is to come among those who will come after. How can we understand this? Solomon says that there is nothing new. What once was will be again. Can you confirm this in practice? Take fashion, for example. Trends come and go, from pointed shoes to round-toed ones, from bell-bottoms to skinny jeans. It all cycles around. And even the movies of today echo those from 200 years ago. There is nothing new, everything comes full circle. I, the preacher, was king over Israel and Jerusalem, and I set my heart to seek and to search out by wisdom all that is done under heaven. It is an unhappy business that God has given to the sons of man to be busy with. So writes Solomon. What's the difficult task? It's not about working the land, it's about observing, exploring, and testing wisdom to understand everything happening on this earth. Solomon says it's a heavy burden, trying to comprehend why God does things the way he does on earth. With wisdom, he tried to understand it all. He says it's a heavy task to contain it all. I have seen all the works that are done under the sun, and indeed, all is vanity and grasping for the wind. What is crooked cannot be made straight, and what is lacking cannot be numbered. I communed with my heart, saying, Look, I have attained greatness, and have gained more wisdom than all who were before me in Jerusalem. My heart has understood great wisdom and knowledge. And I set my heart to know wisdom, and to know madness and folly. I perceive that this also is grasping for the wind. For in much wisdom is much grief, and he who increases knowledge increases sorrow. Solomon tried to understand the difference between wisdom and foolishness. He decided to explore both to make a comparison, this kind of wisdom versus that kind of foolishness. He says this is also a heavy task. And then he says words that indicate why it happens that the wiser a person is, the more sorrowful they become. What did he mean by that? Well, it seems that a wiser person finds life more challenging because they understand it better. They grasp the complexities of existence, seeing things for what they truly are. On the other hand, someone with a lower IQ might seem to live a carefree life. Ignorance, after all, can sometimes lead to bliss. But here's the catch: the more wisdom one acquires, the more they realize the harsh realities of the world. So, should one strive to be wise if it means experiencing more sorrow? It's an age-old question. Even Christ said, "To whom much is given, much is expected." Is the motivation to seek more knowledge simply to invite more pain? To dive deeper into the abyss of existential questions? It's paradoxical. Despite knowing that wisdom may bring more sorrow, humans still yearn for it. Why? Perhaps it's because deep down, we all desire understanding, even if it comes at a cost. To have more sorrow, to discern between good and evil, Solomon suggests that the wiser a person becomes, the more they will be tormented by their understanding. Because if a person understands everything, they delve deeper into the complexities of life, and with that understanding comes a burden. Unlike a primitive creature, content in its simplicity, a wise person's mind is constantly grappling with the complexities of the world around them. A foolish person, ignorant of the deeper truths, may lead a simpler life, but their ignorance cannot save them. This serves as the primary motivation for pursuing wisdom. A wise person can come to know God, while a fool cannot. So in essence, the benefits of wisdom include not only discerning between good and evil, but also the potential to come closer to understanding the divine. As we've read in the parables, when the wise argue with the foolish, the wise always lose. Why? Because the foolish have no fear of losing. In fact, they fear nothing at all. They are oblivious to the consequences of their actions, while the wise can foresee them. So, when the wise engage in a dispute with the foolish always come out on top. Solomon emphasizes that whether the fool cries or laughs, it won't make a difference to them because they know they'll always be in a losing situation. Wisdom holds immense value, and it's encouraged to seek it above all else. However, God warns that wisdom comes with its challenges. The wise person, burdened with understanding, perceives the world as it truly is, which can weigh heavily on them. Thus, while we seek wisdom eagerly, we must also acknowledge that it brings sorrow. As the saying goes, the more you know, the more you understand. So the second chapter of Ecclesiastes becomes a bit heavier to digest compared to the first, leaving us intrigued about what lies ahead. Solomon's reflections on joy and pleasure in Ecclesiastes may seem contradictory at first glance. On one hand, he acknowledges the value of being joyful, likening it to medicine for the soul. However, he also warns that excessive pursuit of pleasure can lead to emptiness, labeling it as vanity. So why does Solomon seemingly contradict himself? The key lies in understanding the context in which he speaks. Solomon isn't condemning all joy and laughter, rather, he's cautioning against seeking fulfillment solely in worldly pleasures. He's reminding us that while moments of happiness are important, they shouldn't become the sole focus of our lives. True fulfillment, he suggests, comes from seeking a deeper, more meaningful connection with God and living a life of purpose and righteousness. When Solomon speaks of laughter as folly and constantly wearing a sorrowful countenance, he's highlighting the danger of extremes. Just as excessive laughter can mask deeper issues or lead to heedless behavior, perpetual sorrow can weigh down the spirit and hinder one's ability to find joy in life's blessings. So is it okay to smile? Absolutely. Solomon's message isn't about forsaking happiness, but about finding balance and prioritizing what truly matters in life. It's a reminder to seek joy in God and virtuous living rather than fleeting pleasures. We must understand the book of Ecclesiastes. It presents the essence of life as a whole in comparison to eternity. This doesn't imply that these activities should be avoided because Solomon himself contradicts this notion in his Proverbs. He compares earthly endeavors with eternity, suggesting that everything we achieve or pursue here is ultimately fleeting. Whether it's accumulating wealth, engaging in activities, or even finding joy in life, Solomon views it all as vanity because, in the end, we all return to the dust and are forgotten. However, this doesn't mean that these activities are sinful. For example, Solomon admits to finding pleasure in wine and enjoyment in bodily pleasures. He suggests that while pursuing wisdom, he also indulged in foolishness until he realized what was truly beneficial for human beings during their brief lives on earth. In the book of Ecclesiastes, Solomon attempts to provide us with a perspective on life from the standpoint of eternity. He compares what we do here on earth with what will happen after our life here. In the light of eternity, all earthly matters seem futile and temporary. However, this doesn't mean that Solomon condemns all aspects of our earthly life. He acknowledges that pleasures and enjoyments can be part of our experience here, but he emphasizes that these should not be our primary focus. Instead, he urges us to direct our lives towards what truly matters before God and eternity. Solomon recognizes that wisdom can guide our actions and help us understand what is good for us. But he also sees that even in our enjoyment and pleasure, there should be room for prudence and caution. So the key to understanding Ecclesiastes is understanding that while everything we do here on earth may seem futile, it doesn't mean we should despise our earthly life. Instead, we should be wise in our choices and strive to live according to God's will, remembering that our true destiny awaits us in eternity. Solomon, despite being wise, decided to explore folly by observing how a foolish person reacts and behaves. To do this, he utilized a substance known to impair judgment and dull the senses: wine or alcohol. The effects of alcohol are such that when a person becomes intoxicated, they may lose awareness of their actions and begin to act foolishly. Solomon, in his quest for understanding, chose to experience this state firsthand by consuming a considerable amount of wine. While sober, he understood how to conduct himself, but inebriated, he investigated his behavior under the influence. This method of experimentation allows us to understand the nature of folly and the consequences of impaired judgment. By temporarily abandoning wisdom and embracing foolishness, Solomon sought to gain insights into human behavior and the consequences of certain actions. While some may argue that life experiences should encompass trying everything, there are biblical figures who caution against this approach. They share their testimonies to emphasize that not everything needs to be experienced firsthand. For instance, the dangers of drugs do not need to be personally encountered to understand their effects. I undertook great projects. I built houses for myself and planted vineyards. I made gardens and parks and planted all kinds of fruit trees in them. I made reservoirs to water groves of flourishing trees. I acquired male and female servants and had other slaves who were born in my house. I also owned more herds and flocks than anyone in Jerusalem before me. I amassed silver and gold for myself and the treasure of kings and provinces. I acquired male and female singers and a harem as well, the delights of a man's heart. I became greater by far than anyone in Jerusalem before me. In all this my wisdom stayed with me. I denied myself nothing my eyes desired. I refused my heart no pleasure. My heart took delight in all my labor, and this was the reward for all my toil. According to the 11th verse, Solomon appears to have had everything one could wish, for he was a sort of oligarch of his time. His possessions, ranging from gardens and groves to treasures and precious items, were truly impressive. Even his lavish home adorned with ivory and overlaid with gold speaks to his immense wealth. It seems he was one of the wealthiest individuals of his time. However, despite all his riches and luxury, Solomon decided to conduct an experiment to experience what it was like to be utterly foolish. He tried everything imaginable and did so relentlessly. Yet, can wealth and luxury truly guarantee happiness? This question Solomon sought to answer by exploring various aspects of life. Who has achieved this, and what does he say about it? Sometimes we think, if only I had that. But Solomon, who had it all, tells us what it's like to have it. I looked at all the works that my hands had done, and at the labor in which I had toiled, and indeed all was vanity and grasping for the wind. There was no profit under the sun. This is the conclusion of someone who has attained it all, and he says there's no benefit in any of it. Yet, we still aspire to reach the level of Solomon and verify whether what he said is true. God gives us examples of people from the Bible, people from today's life who dream of having a fancy car. They share there's no happiness in it. People share this so that we don't cry over it, because our happiness isn't focused on it. It's not in the car, not in the house. People who have tried it say this. They say the more you accumulate, the more anxiety you have. But we all want to try everything after all, to have something. So I turn myself to consider wisdom and madness and folly, for what can the man do who succeeds the king? Only what he has already done. Then I saw that wisdom excels folly as light excels darkness. The wise man's eyes are in his head, but the fool walks in darkness. Yet I myself perceived that the same event happens to them all. Solomon concludes. What does he mean? He seems to be contemplating whether it's worth striving to become wise when, ultimately, everything ends up the same. Even though he notes that the wise have an advantage over the foolish, he concludes, like a philosopher, with a reflection that everyone faces the same fate, death. But before the Lord, there is a different destiny. And I said in my heart, the same fate befalls me as the wise man. What I said in my heart, that this too is vanity. For the wise man, as well as the fool, will not be remembered in the days to come, and everything will be forgotten. And unfortunately, the wise man dies just like the fool, writes Solomon. Once again, motivation dwindles for someone who doesn't believe in resurrection from the dead. Ecclesiastes seems spot on for all 100 marks here. Whether you're wise or foolish, you'll end up 6 feet under. If there were no resurrection, Ecclesiastes could be interpreted in line with Jesus Christ. Nowhere in Solomon's toilsome writings would you find mention of his understanding of resurrection from the dead. But given that God will bring you to judgment for all things, Solomon believed in an afterlife and expressed it thus in the 17th verse. And I hated life, for the work that is done under the sun was grievous to me. All of it is vanity and a striving after wind. I hated all my toil in which I toil under the sun, seeing that I must leave it to the man who will come after me, and who knows whether he will be wise or a fool. Yet he will be master of all for which I toiled and used my wisdom under the sun. Solomon addresses to whom he will leave his legacy, whether to the wise or to the foolish, and concludes, I worked, I built, I tried, the time comes to die, and you leave the house not knowing who will inherit it, and you say to yourself, I don't want to live anymore, it is vanity and the affliction of the spirit. Why did he say so? I turned my heart to give myself up to all the labor by which I had labored under the sun. For there is a man whose labor is with wisdom, knowledge, and skill, yet he must leave his heritage to a man who has not labored for it. This also is vanity and a great evil. For what has man for all his labor, and for the striving of his heart with which he has toiled under the sun? For all his days are sorrowful, and his work burdensome. Even in the night his heart takes no rest. This also is vanity. Ultimately, Solomon is right. All is vanity, nothing is taken with us to the afterlife. You work, you strive, and then what? In these words, Solomon addresses the dilemma of leaving behind one's legacy to either a wise or foolish successor. He reflects on the futility of worldly endeavors and the burden of uncertainty regarding the fruits of one's labor. Solomon grapples with the existential question of life's purpose and ultimate meaning, recognizing that all human efforts and concerns ultimately amount to vanity and vexation of spirit. He realizes that the pursuit of wisdom and success is noble, but futile if not shared or appreciated by others. Solomon concludes that the relentless toil and restless heart of humanity are ultimately meaningless in the grand scheme of things, as nothing can be taken to the afterlife. This contemplation leads him to question the purpose and significance of human existence beyond mere material accumulation and temporal pursuits. No matter how much effort you put into earthly endeavors, you will still leave it all behind. That's what the Lord directs us to remember. No matter how much we invest in earthly pursuits, we still have to leave them behind. The Bible advises us to contemplate the heavenly, even as we live on this earth, but to remember that we will ultimately leave the earthly behind. This is so that we don't become overly preoccupied with things that aren't under human control. For a man to eat and drink, and to enjoy the good of all his labor, is the gift of God, Solomon writes. Why then do people work 8 to 12 hours a day, yet it doesn't guarantee that you'll be able to use that money? This doesn't assure anything. On the first option, death could come for you in the middle of the night, rendering all your toil useless. The second option, you can't eat money. The third, people hoard money under their pillows by the thousands but hesitate to buy a piece of sausage. The fourth, people deposit hundreds of thousands of dollars into bank accounts but live in hunger. Why? Because God didn't give wisdom, and He says so. You can have thousands but still walk in poverty. You'll save up to buy until someone steals from you, or the money loses its value due to inflation. Then you'll end up with worthless pieces of paper. It's also necessary for God to want it, to give you wisdom to earn and to eat. The Lord can take away understanding, give you money, and not allow you to use it. It's entirely possible. God says you still need His blessing for you to benefit from the work of your hands. It's a gift from God. Because one can be so miserly that they deny their children and themselves. They don't even save under the mattress. That's true. It's a curse if God wants to curse someone. He gives them wisdom. You have money, but you deny yourself. Especially the older generation, give the older generation a chance. They can't afford to buy something better because they feel like criminals before God. To the person who is good in His sight, He gives wisdom, knowledge, and joy. But to the sinner, He gives the task of gathering and storing up wealth to hand it over later. The Proverbs of Solomon are remarkable and wise texts that offer profound lessons about life, morality, and human wisdom. They provide valuable guidance on making decisions, building relationships, and conducting oneself in society. Subscribe to our channel to receive even more wise thoughts and inspiration from the Proverbs of Solomon.